Now, amid several questions about whether the West Asia war will lead to a disruption in oil and gas supply, will it hit the energy sector in India, the government has again reiterated that no, there is absolutely no reason to worry that there will be no oil shock or shortage of energy. In the latest statement that's come in from Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, he said, and I quote, "Our priority is to ensure availability of affordable and sustainable fuel for our citizens, and we're doing it comfortably. There is no shortage of energy in India. There is no cause of worry for our energy consumers." So big statement that's come in from the government at a time when there's been endless questions and a bit of panic really about whether the energy sector will be hit. This is global. Let's be clear that this kind of worries and concerns has been global, of an oil shock as a result of what's playing out right now in West Asia. The government, the Indian government, has repeatedly said that we have adequate oil stock, there is no issue, and that we have also a backup plan, a plan B kept in place. Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, now responding to all of the concern, has again reiterated that there is no energy shortage whatsoever and that the Indian government is fully prepared in light of the conflict that's playing out in West Asia, that there's absolutely no reason to be concerned or worried. I'll bring in Aishwarya Paliwal for more details on this. Aishwarya, repeated assurances from the government that there is no reason to be worried right now. Take us through really what's got the government so confident that even if this conflict goes on, we're fully secure.
Well, Akshata, let me just break it down in three very simple points for you and for the viewers. See, first and foremost, the government has said that the amount of crude which at the moment is struck in the Strait of Hormuz, more than that, India already has. So that is one thing that the government very clearly is looking at. Second, they are saying that just a portion of the crude oil that India uses at the moment is coming from Saudi, at the moment is coming from Strait, because over the past few months, we now have looked at diversification of making sure that we have crude not just from one place, but from different places. And the third, the thing that the government at the moment is looking at is to make sure that the way in which crude is being used in India, that is also something which is very clearly being looked at. So that is something that the government is focusing on. In fact, let me tell you, the refineries have been given a very clear diktat that there could be a possibility that they could be asked to make sure that the crude that they are getting inside, maximum of it is being used for the LPG. So these are the 3 points that we are seeing being very clearly looked at. The government is reassuring the people once again that India will not face the brunt of it. And at the moment, be it the LPG, be it diesel, be it petrol, there is no need for you to come up and for you to start holding it.
So very clear message to all the viewers watching this broadcast. Absolutely no reason to stock up on fuel or do anything of that sort. We are comfortable. There is no concern whatsoever. Thanks, Aishwarya, for joining us with those details. Let's cut across to more breaking news that's coming in right now. Because even at this point, the bombardment continues. Israel has launched another fresh wave of strikes at Iran, and this time targeting the underground bunker of Khamenei. Why exactly have they done this when Khamenei has already been assassinated? Because Israel perhaps believes that there are more big leaders who are in hiding in these underground bunkers, in these underground tunnels. In Tehran, Israel has carried out a fresh wave of strikes. This is the 15th wave of strikes, and we understand that about 50 jets have conducted these strikes. So airstrikes confirmed. Those images on your screens released by Israel shows the extent of damage, shows several pockets of Tehran completely decimated. Israel says that this is in fact underground bunkers of the top leadership of Khamenei that has in fact been completely destroyed. This is within the Iranian regime's leadership compound that the strikes have taken place. Israel, remember, as part of Operation Roar of the Lion, has been focusing on targeting several of the big leadership establishments. Because while there's a very clear succession plan in place, and already you've got the leadership that stepped up and taken control of Iran, Israel has made it their top priority and prerogative to wipe out that succession ladder as well. And everyone in that succession plan, Israel is going after. Let's take this across to Pranay Upadhyay of India Today Global for more details. Pranay, is there any suspicion that, there were leaders of the Iranian regime, important representatives of the Iranian regime hiding in those bunkers?
We can't say with surety right now, Akshita, but definitely if you go by the Israeli, military plan, whatever they are suggesting, and what the Americans are saying about this Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion, this clearly indicates that they are there to, if I may borrow their words, they are going to decimate the Iranian Islamic regime, and in fact they will hunt down the military leadership, the administrative leadership, the power structure of Islamic regime. So definitely this is another 15th round of the Israeli military strike, and you know, Akshita, that recently United States and Israel have claimed that they are now dominating the Iranian skies. They do not find any challenge in terms of the air defense system or in terms of the missile launchers, because recently they have destroyed most of the missile launchers as well as the drone launchers of Iran, and they are now hunting down. They are also going in the hinterland. If you see the topography and if you see the location of Isfahan, you can make out on the map that now this entire these military strikes are going in the depth of Iran, and now they are targeting the areas, the regions where there could be possible hideout, where could be the possible safe house for the leadership. So let us wait for the Iranian government to come out with a statement, because they will also come out with a statement stating that whether they have suffered any impact or not, whether they have lost any life or not. But having said that, amid all these military operations and strikes, you have heard Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian saying that certain countries have started the mediation process as well, and he has put onus on United States and Israel to adhere to that mediation process.
But as far as America is concerned, Trump just recently said too late for talks. Pranay, thanks for those details. Trump essentially is continuing these escalations with the latest statement from Trump suggesting that while, yes, the strikes continue, Operation Epic Fury is still underway and they're trying to wipe out all of Iran's military assets, Trump also wants control over the Iranian regime. He's now actively talking about who should be in charge, who shouldn't in Tehran. Let's get you details of what's transpired in the last 1 week, day 7 of the war playing out in West Asia.
The battle lines in West Asia are hardening by the hour. On day 7 of the US-Israel offensive against Iran, rhetoric from Washington has turned sharper, with the White House openly questioning Tehran's leadership and even weighing in on who could rule Iran next. President Donald Trump has escalated his offensive rhetoric, urging Iran to surrender and claiming Tehran had reached out for peace talks, a claim that Iran has flatly denied.
Once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military and the police, to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. So you'll be perfectly safe with total immunity, or you'll face absolutely guaranteed death, and I don't want to see that.
Trump said Iranian missiles are being destroyed every hour in their operations. The US president also declared that Iran has effectively lost its air defense and air force capability.
We're destroying more of Iran's missiles and drone capability every single hour. Their anti-aircraft weapons are gone, so they have no air force, they have no air defense.
In a striking offer, Trump said immunity could be granted to members of Iran's police and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps if they abandon the regime and stand on the right side of history. He also suggested that Iranian diplomats stationed around the world could seek asylum. However, in an intervention into Iran's domestic politics, Trump said the US must have a role in determining the country's future leadership, rejecting the prospect of Mojtaba Khamenei emerging as the next supreme leader. Tehran, on the other hand, has dismissed Trump's claims outright. Iranian officials say no request for peace talks were made and that trust between the two sides have collapsed, making negotiations virtually impossible. With the battlefield heating up and rhetoric crossing into regime politics, the war is no longer just about missiles and strikes. It is now about the future of power in Iran itself. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, let's also get you now a news break that's coming in on what's happening in the Gulf. things have definitely calmed down, eased in the Middle East countries. But now the UAE Ministry of Defence has confirmed that the country's air defence systems has detected 9 ballistic missiles today, all of which were intercepted, all of which were destroyed. The UAE government has confirmed 9 ballistic missiles were fired in their direction from Iran, and all of them were intercepted and destroyed, which means essentially that there wasn't much damage reported as a result. Now, what we can also confirm for you is that 112 drones were detected by the UAE government, noting that air defense systems were intercepted and destroyed. 109 of them, 3 drones fell within UAE's territory. This is the latest confirmation that's come in. UAE saying that even today there have been 9 ballistic missiles that were fired towards the UAE's direction. All of them intercepted, fortunately, and that's what has led to, in fact, no damage to property or life being reported. There was, in fact, reports that suggested that a warning was sounded out in Dubai today, that residents did receive a mobile phone warning saying they must stay indoors because there was a suspicion that there would be, in fact, missiles fired in UAE's direction. And with that news break, I'm handing it over to my colleague Maria Shakil for an India Today exclusive.
And at a moment when the conflict risks redrawing the geopolitical map of West Asia, we have with us world's foremost political scientist to decode the power shifts, the military calculus, and the possible end games. Ian Bremmer is one of the world's most influential geopolitical analysts, the president and founder of Eurasia Group, known for coining a concept called G0 World. Mr. Bremmer has long argued that global leadership is fragmenting, and nowhere is that more visible today than in the escalating war between Iran, Israel, and the United States. Dr. Bremmer, really appreciate your time here on India Today. Let me start with the simplest but also perhaps the toughest question. We are 7 days into this war. Who is actually winning right now, Iran or the US-Israel alliance?
Well, I mean, the Iranians are obviously losing in the sense that their navy's been destroyed, their air defenses are non-existent, so sorties can be run over Iran now with impunity. Their leadership has, the supreme leader and the military leadership has been decapitated, assassinated by the Israelis. I mean, this is not, and this is on the back of a country that already over the last 2 years had watched their proxy network, anywhere from Hamas to Hezbollah, to the overthrow of Assad in Syria, to attacks on the Houthis in Yemen, watch the axis of resistance get systematically dismantled. So, I mean, the Iranians are by no measure, in anyone's eyes, actually winning here.
Okay.
But the United States is not doing this the way that Trump thought they would. Trump thought that there would not be significant military blowback in the region. He was wrong. He thought that there would be a very clear way to get from pre-war to a regime that he was more comfortable with, that would want to work with him. So far, he's been wrong. He didn't think there would be significant economic consequences, certainly not back in the United States. He's been wrong. And so unlike in Venezuela, where he had 20 different reasons for the war, it was democracy, and it was this guy is a thug and a criminal, and he stole the elections, and there's all of this illegal migration, and there's all of this illicit drug trade, and we want to get the oil. But if a day later, it didn't matter that he had, all these different reasons for the war, because he succeeded and everything worked out fine. But a week later, after declaring war that isn't officially a war, but it's a war, against the Iranians, suddenly everyone's poking holes in what Trump is trying to do because he's not being so successful. So, I mean, that's not a very concise answer to your question. But I don't think it's easy to just say, okay, the Iranians are losing. It's true. but it needs a broader explanation.
Okay, so before I come into the goalpost question, because what is evident is the US is constantly shifting its goalpost, I want to understand from you, Dr. Bremmer, this is already a regional war involving the entire West Asia. So is this now the beginning of the World War III?
It's not involving all of West Asia in the sense that the Gulf states are not directly at war with Iran. Iran has definitely fired off a bunch of drones and missiles at anything they can reach, particularly non-hardened targets. So even Oman, which was leading the mediation process of negotiations between the US and Iran, even Oman was hit. And we saw, missiles at Turkey that were struck down, and Azerbaijan got hit with launches from northwest Iran. So, I mean, definitely lots of countries are experiencing direct strikes from Iran, but that's different from saying it's a regional war. We don't see the UAE, the Saudis, the Qataris, others that have their militaries directly involved in fighting with Iran. Not at all. Not at all. And so you're not going to be surprised when I say this isn't remotely close to World War III. I mean, the Chinese, who have been very engaged with Iran, they buy 80% of Iranian exported crude. They've been providing a lot of technology, including the technology that has powered a lot of Iran's drone capabilities. But China's basically told the Iranians, hey, we don't like this war, but you're kind of on your own. The Russians are pretty busy in their own front with the Ukrainians. They benefit from energy prices being higher, but there's nothing they can do here, just like there was nothing they could do when Bashar Assad got overtaken. And that was, of course, strategically very important for Russia because they had, a warm water port there, and they had a lot of military capabilities and some leadership that was stationed on the ground, projecting force more broadly. So no, I think this is what's interesting about this war is how few actors are directly involved. The United States and Israel went to war without even giving a heads up to their allies in advance. They had no idea. The Brits, who were told, we need your bases, but they weren't asked by the United States a day before, a week before, here's what we're planning, we'd like to work with you. Nor were the French, nor were the Germans, nor were the Spaniards, right? And this is NATO we're talking about.
Okay.
So I think what's remarkable is how few countries are actually involved in the fighting.
Okay, so, that's an important question that you've answered, that we are not really close to World War III. So, Dr. Bremmer, let me ask you the third big question that is on everybody's mind. Why is Donald Trump constantly, almost in real time, shifting the goalpost? What started earlier was the stated objective that it was to cripple Iran's nuclear and missile capability, but now the conversation seems to be about regime change.
So I think there are a few reasons for that. The first is that Venezuela was so successful, and it's not regime change. It's the same regime, but Maduro's gone, and some of the worst, most aggressive and brutal of Maduro's inner circle, like the former Minister of Interior, have been forced out. That it does not imply a transition to a democratically elected government. Trump is now referring to Delcy as the president as opposed to the acting president. He's also just reestablished diplomatic relations with Venezuela. So the extraordinary success, popular in the US, popular across Latin America, more support from Latin American governments to go after the drug lords in Mexico, joint activities with the US and Ecuador just in the last 24 hours. That all made Trump feel like I could do the same thing in Iran. I can have the Delcy moment with the mullahs, and that will be extraordinary for me. That's one reason he did it. Second reason he did it is because he's already had experience using his military force against Iran, and Iran has done nothing against the US in return. He saw that when he ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds Force, at the end of his first term. The Iranians talked a big game and did nothing. Then he had the 12-day war. The Israelis started it, but he got involved. Late, but he got involved. The Israelis took hits. Almost 100 Israeli civilians were killed, but nothing happened to the Americans. They launched some strikes against the U.S. airbase in Qatar, but they gave a heads up to the Americans through Turkey and through Iraq. So Trump had reason to believe, in his mind, that Iran had no fist in their glove and they wouldn't be able to attack the Americans in response. And then finally, Trump has been frustrated that the focus of his foreign policy in his first term, which was economic, which was the tariff, has been constrained. He's got affordability issues domestically with midterms coming up, so the people aren't happy about it. You had the Supreme Court ruling down his ability to use tariffs whenever he wants with the IEEPA clause. You saw the Chinese hit the Americans back, and so the United States had to back down. And then he needs critical minerals, so the Brazilians were able to hit him. India was able to get the deal they wanted by taking a longer time and negotiating harder against the U.S. So suddenly, the economic route seemed more challenging, but militarily, Trump can do whatever he wants. Congress doesn't want to have any responsibility for that. There are no other countries that can hit the Americans back militarily the way they can economically. So I think for those three reasons combined, Trump felt particularly confident and capable and was particularly interested in a bigger military operation against Iran. And I think it was a huge mistake. I think that if Trump had just said, we're going to do the 12-day war again, open the aperture because they're rebuilding their nuclear capabilities and we told them not to, and they're expanding dramatically their ballistic missiles, and that's unacceptable, so we're going to take them out. And done that over the course of another 2 weeks, but no strikes against the top leadership, no thousands and thousands of sorties that leads to, school kids getting blown up at what looks to be the hands of the Americans inadvertently, but nonetheless, all of that is really bad for the United States and makes Trump look like he bit off way more than he could chew here.
Yes, and Donald Trump has been talking about him being the someone who was a peacemaker, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize as well. But here he is seen as an aggressor, someone who has perhaps fundamentally underestimated Iran's ability to retaliate and also sustain a war.
I think that's right. I mean, the fact that he did not have a plan ready to evacuate Americans from all of these countries shows that he really did not think that Iran would have this capability. The fact that he had to, on the fly, say, well, we'll provide insurance and maybe provide military escorts for tankers that are getting threatened, and the insurance companies privately aren't going to provide that insurance, that was a response on the fly. It showed a lack of preparation, a lack of belief that the Iranians would be capable of causing this kind of disruption. And obviously that makes President Trump look weaker here, and makes fewer people, even in the United States, believe in him. This war is not popular. Most Americans oppose it. Only a small percentage of Republicans support it. But if there is, God forbid, a mass casualty event against Americans, you're going to see the United States oppose this significantly. This is the guy that just put together the Board of Peace. I mean, you would have thought, if you've got a new Board of Peace and you're the chairman, there would have been some meeting of that group that would have at least rubber stamped the attacks against Iran. It's not the case at all. So, I mean, clearly, Trump is all over the map. He's had some successes, as we've seen in Gaza with the peace plan and with the hostages being returned, being released. He had success in Venezuela, but Iran is not a success for Trump. And the longer this war goes on, the worse it's going to be for him in the United States and more broadly.
In the last 24 hours, Dr. Bremmer, a new peacemaker has arrived on the horizon, and this is China. Can China then play the peacemaker because they have sent a special envoy to negotiate and navigate? What leverage do you think they will have, and will US really agree to this suo motu mediation?
I think the fact that they're sending in an envoy is nice. It shows that China's not taking sides, even though they've been a principal economic supporter of Iran keeping the Islamic Republic afloat. Again, a deeply brutal regime capable and willing to kill tens and tens of thousands of their own population. So, China has blood on their hands with that support, but they also work with the Saudis. They work with the Emiratis. They buy oil from them too. They also provide technology. There's a lot of trade. There's a lot of tourism. And ultimately, China wants a stable region, and they're very pragmatic. In many ways, they're more pragmatic than Trump, whose ego matters a lot here in a way that Xi Jinping's does not, who's looking to make personal money for himself and his family with leaders in the region and more broadly, like in Pakistan. Xi Jinping doesn't care as much about that. So while it's comparatively easy for the Gulf leaders to make individual deals with Trump, Trump's approach to the Middle East is in many ways more worrying to them than the approach of China. And that's particularly true because Trump is gone in 2029 and Xi Jinping is not. And so in that regard, the Chinese leadership has a lot more in common with Mohammed bin Salman, with Mohammed bin Zayed, than Trump does.
So, Dr. Bremmer, then what really happens from here onwards? Because the Israeli strikes have been militarily precise, but Iran continues to fire back. Does that also expose the limits of even the most sophisticated air defense systems? And Iran's network of proxies, from Hezbollah to regional militias, hasn't really fully entered the battlefield yet. Is there a sense that Tehran's biggest card is still on the table?
No, but they still have cards. Their biggest cards are gone. Hezbollah a year ago was the most powerful non-state military in the world, and they're now getting pounded yet again by Israel after, under Iranian order, striking Israel with 6 missiles. Now, before the decapitation of Hezbollah a year ago, a typical sortie would be 40, 50, 100 missiles. This was 6 because they don't have it, because they're not as capable as they were before. The Houthis have not entered this fight, and the reason is because the Houthis are talking to Gulf states, seeing if they could be bought off. What kind of economic support, military support, guarantees might they provide if they choose to stay out of this fight? They've been getting a lot of funding from the Iranians, but they're much more independent than Hamas or than Hezbollah have been. So I don't think Iran necessarily has the ability to activate their proxies the way they did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before the October 7th terror attacks by Hamas against Israel. Now, domestically, Iran still does itself have a lot of drones, and they have decentralized a decision-making authority to local commanders, which gives them the ability to engage in strikes. Those strikes are hitting the Gulf states, but they're not hitting hardened targets for the most part because they can't get through. So they're basically striking whatever they can. In my eyes, that's desperation. That doesn't show that the Iranians are marshaling some great and grievous capability that they haven't used yet. Again, they've just seen the assassination of their supreme leader and of their top military leaderships. And Ali Larijani, who's kind of the toughest man left standing, is saying that there's going to be strikes against America that they've never seen anything like before. That's pure propaganda and bluster, primarily aimed at Iran's own domestic audience. But I will say that, I mean, Iran has been the leading exporter of terror of many countries around the world. And long term, the likelihood that we will see either directed or inspired terrorist attacks against American civilians, the likelihood we will see a spike in anti-Semitism, which was already rising greatly around the world because of what we've seen in Iran in the last week, I think those things we can count on.
You know, there are reports, Dr. Bremmer, that Washington perhaps is exploring the idea of using Kurdish groups opening a front against Tehran from Iraqi Kurdistan. How effective will that be?
I've seen credible reports already that the Americans, the CIA, have provided some arms directly to some Kurds in Iran. I've also seen that Trump spoke with some of the Kurdish leaders in Iraq. And there is kind of a patchwork of different ethnic minorities that have their own interests in different parts of Iran. There's, of course, the Azeris in the northwest. There's Arab Khuzestan. There's the Baluchs in the southeast. And there's the Kurds in the west. And each of them have different aspirations, have different external sponsors. And so, I mean, in the worst case scenario, if the Iranian regime starts to crumble, you could imagine a civil war breaking out where Iran itself fragments with, huge numbers of refugees as a consequence, with arms spilling across the country and out into the region. That would be a very dangerous environment to be in, but it's possible. It's possible. At this point, I don't think that in the White House, there's not yet a lot of confidence that that's a winning strategy, especially because it could bring a lot of the Iranian people themselves to rally around their own repressive government, because they would prefer that to their country falling apart.
Energy markets, shipping lanes, Gulf security, do you think it's all going to change fundamentally now? And could this trigger a global energy crisis, given how the Strait of Hormuz was choked?
We've got higher prices right now. Gas prices in the U.S. are the highest they've been at any point in the Trump administration, one or two. So that really matters. And Trump's had to say, I don't care, they'll go up now, which, he started his State of the Union speech with how low oil prices, gas prices were, said they were under $2 at one station in Iowa. I'm sure that's not true today. So, that's a problem for him. And this could keep going for a while. Again, I think that the Iranians are going to have a hard time continuing this level of drone strikes for weeks and months. So I think that the markets are still saying that they think this is going to be relatively short-lived. The long-term oil futures, they're not as liquid, but they're lower, and they're lower with an expectation that this is not going to be a global energy crisis. I think the biggest problem is natural gas, which is not a global market, it's a regional market, and their American prices are pretty flat, but the European prices have nearly doubled in the last week after a tough winter where storage levels are barely over 20%. So this is going to hit the Europeans at a time that they really can't afford it. Asian markets, as the Indians are seeing, also being hit hard on the natural gas front.
So you don't see this spiraling out of control, or perhaps becoming a situation where the countries will start stacking up on oil?
The Chinese already have major strategic reserves. The Americans are talking about insurance as well as escorts to help mitigate that challenge. I think that this is a major disruption in the short term, but I don't think we yet have evidence to believe that this is going to be a global oil shock.
Okay, last couple of questions now, Dr. Bremmer. What is the timeline that you're looking at? How long will this war go on?
It looks like we are likely to see boots on the ground from the Americans at some point in the coming week or two, with targeted intent, but with more Americans that could get killed. The Iranian air capabilities have been destroyed, but there are a lot of additional targets. If you're focusing on regime change, you want to go after the Interior Ministry's capabilities. You want to go after the besieged, the paramilitaries that are involved directly in repression of demonstrations. That's going to take a while. You've heard now from the White House and from the Secretary of Defense that this could be 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks of strikes. Now, Trump could change his mind tomorrow and say, okay, the Iranians are reaching out to me and I'm willing to stop for now and talk to them. He's capable of doing that. But so far, I've seen no intention that is imminent. So it feels to me like we're going to be in this for a while now to come. The Americans have the capacity to end this war at any moment. It's up to Trump. That is, as they say, a curse and a blessing.
So when does this war end actually?
Yeah, it ends when Trump says it ends. And the Americans are going to run short on interceptors. Military capabilities in part will help to tell that message. I don't think this is a war that's going to go on for a year. This isn't like the Iraq War in that regard. It's probably a matter of 4 weeks to several months. But when it's over, you could still see terrorist acts. When it's over, you could still see drone strikes. When it's over, you could still see the Americans responding in a very aggressive way as those things occur. So, the baseline expectation would be a much more unstable environment in how the Americans are engaging in and around Iran.
All right, Dr. Ian Bremmer, really appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to India.
Good to talk to you. Thank you.
And Donald Trump has now given a new war cry to this entire conflict. He says that this is about make Iran great again. Trump, in fact, took to Truth Social where he has said, and I'm quoting him, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. After that, and the selection of a great and acceptable leader, within bracket S, leaders, it becomes, we and many of our wonderful and very brave allies and partners will work tirelessly to bring Iran back from the brink of destruction, making it economically bigger, better and stronger than ever before. Iran will have a great future. Make Iran great again. So, Donald Trump here has given a new war cry which is called Make Iran Great Again. And he has taken to Truth Social to now shift goalpost again with regards to what is the objective or the end game of this war, where he has said that it is about an unconditional surrender of Iran, and till the time a leader or leaders are selected, then till that time he will be working at it and ensuring that Iran becomes great again and Iran will have a great future.